From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
It is my pleasant task to introduce Callista Gingrich, the author of several books, 4 so far on Ellis the Elephant, featuring him in any case, including Sweet Land of Liberty, about American exceptionalism, Land of the Pilgrim's Pride, about colonial America. Both were on the New York Times bestseller list of children's picture books. Yankee Doodle Dandy is about the American Revolution. From Sea to Shining Sea is about the expedition of Lewis and Clark in the early years of the United States. Christmas in America is about the history of that holiday. It was released in October 2015. There is a pattern here. Callista, if I may so address her, is very much interested in American history and the cause of freedom in the world. And that accounts for many of her much of her work on history and public policy documentaries. She's multi-talented and a multitasker. Long interested in music, which was her major in college, Callista sings in the choir at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. Many people probably know it's right near the Catholic University of America. Originally from Wisconsin, she is of Polish descent on her father's side. And the Polish connection led to my meeting her several years ago, which I remember very fondly, 4 years ago. She was at a bipartisan event to get out the vote among Polish Americans. And the president of that organization, the American Polish Advisory Council, is retired General Edward Roney, then 95 years old, but still with us, thankfully. And she and her husband, Newt Gingrich, who's a writer in his own right, talked about one of their trips to Poland, and they did a documentary on the first trip to Poland by the Pope John Paul II in 1979. And at that time, I said to myself, what a nice person she is. And somebody who generally enjoys talking to and looking about people, and I'm sure that you will agree with me. So it is my privilege to introduce author, musician, and documentarian Callista Gingrich, here to talk about her role as a writer of children's books.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Come on over, Ellis. Well, good morning. It's wonderful to be here with you today. My name is Callista Gingrich, and this is my very special friend, Ellis the Elephant. Ellis is a very smart and very fun elephant. He loves to read books, don't you, Ellis? And I know that many of you love to read books as well. That's why we're all here at the National Book Festival. Now, Ellis loves to read about American history and has had many, many adventures. In my first book, Sweet Land of Liberty, Ellis learns about what makes America special. In Land of the Pilgrim's Pride, he learns about the Pilgrims and colonial America. In Yankee Doodle Dandy, Ellis learns about our patriots and the American Revolution. In From Sea to Shining Sea, he learns about the wild, wild West and the great expedition of Lewis and Clark. And in Christmas in America, Ellis learns about how Christmas has been celebrated throughout our nation's history. Do any of you like Christmas? Yes. Well, and snow too. Excellent. Well, Ellis likes Christmas too. Well, today we are going to join Ellis as he learns about something very, very important. In my new book, Hail to the Chief, Ellis learns about our American presidents and discovers how they've led our country throughout American history. Now, who knows who our president is? Who's our president? Anybody know? Our president is President Obama, of course. And where does our president live? Anybody? The White House, exactly. And who was our very first president? Yes, it was George Washington. That is exactly right. Now, in Hail to the Chief, Ellis is going to learn about some of our most important and influential presidents And I am so excited to share this book with you today. But first, I want to talk about why it's so important for you to learn about our American presidents with Ellis. Now, in just a few weeks, our country will vote for our 45th president. This is a very big decision, and it's going to impact our entire nation. And someday, all of you kids are going to be able to vote as well. Now, to vote, you'll have to understand what the presidency means. And what better way to do so than by learning about some of our greatest presidents? This is what you can do with Ellis the Elephant. In Hail to the Chief, you'll learn that the President of the United States is one of the most important elected leaders in the world, and that he or she represents our entire nation. You'll learn that many different kinds of people have become president, each with their unique strengths, perspectives, and weaknesses. And finally, you'll learn that any American from any background can grow up to become President of the United States and have the chance to change history. Now, we have never had an elephant as president before. And Ellis, I don't think we ever will. So unfortunately, President Ellis might be out of the question. But you know what? Any one of you could grow up to be the President of the United States, just like the presidents in this book have done. Isn't that right, Ellis? This is the first time I've ever read this book to anyone, including Ellis. So let's read Hail to the Chief, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And if some of you children want to come up a little closer so you can see the pictures in the book, that would be great. Come on up. Come on up. There's lots of room for everybody. Do you know? Let's switch places, Ellis. Yeah. All right. It's great to see so many of you here today. Wow, what a good-looking group. Isn't it, Ellis? Yes. All right. All right, it looks like we're all ready to go, and I'm so happy to see all of you here. So the book is called Hail to the Chief, and you can see Ellis on the cover with some of our other presidents. And the dedication says, dedicated to our American presidents who have led this exceptional nation. The American president has a great task, a job as exciting as anyone could ask. Elected to uphold America's laws, the commander-in-chief defends freedom's cause. Ellis the Elephant knew our country was blessed with exceptional leaders who stood up to the test. He was eager to meet the presidents of the past and learn how they governed a nation so vast. Ellis is in the portrait gallery in this illustration with some of our very first presidents. Ellis had heard of George Washington before, the man who led the Revolutionary War. After the war, it was General Washington's fate to lead the new nation he fought to create. As president, Washington was ready to serve, defending the freedoms he pledged to preserve. Our country's first leader set the standard indeed for future presidents who would follow his lead. Here's George Washington at his inauguration. our very first president. That was an exciting moment, Ellis. Thomas Jefferson was a founding father of our nation. He wrote of independence in a famous declaration. With clarity and passion, this document explained how our God-given rights must always be maintained. As president, Jefferson had a grand vision and boldly made an important decision. His Louisiana Purchase added new land and opened the West for America to expand. And here is Ellis with Lewis and Clark. And they're with President Jefferson. And where does President Jefferson live? Monticello. Not anymore, he used to. Known as the father of the Constitution, James Madison drafted a brilliant solution. As president, Madison had challenges galore when a British invasion took our country to war. At the Battle of Baltimore, Ellis had no doubt we'd win the War of 1812 and kick the British out. Here, the Star-Spangled Banner waved high for all to see and inspired our anthem by Francis Scott Key. Do some of you know the Star-Spangled Banner? Yeah, that's great. Andrew Jackson captured the public's admiration, a man of the people with a strong reputation. He vowed to remember his own humble start and took every American's needs to heart. But Jackson learned the challenge of fame and success when his inaugural party became a real mess. Thousands crowded the White House and made such a clamor, a major departure from its usual glamour. Look at the White House and how crazy things got at Andrew Jackson's inaugural party. There's even an eagle swinging from the chandelier. And I've got to share something with you. In all of these illustrations, there's an eagle. And so when you're reading these books, you always want to look for the eagle. And the eagle represents our freedom and independence that we have in this beautiful country. So we'll always look for the eagle. Abraham Lincoln bravely and wisely presided over a nation in crisis and deeply divided. A fight over slavery caused the country to split, and the Civil War started when the South tried to quit. The conflict was awful and took a great toll, so at Gettysburg, Lincoln rose to console. The Union Army fought long and hard to ensure that this fragile young nation could long endure. There's President Lincoln at Gettysburg.
I see the eagle.
Do you see the eagle? Yes, there he is with President Lincoln. Do you see the eagle? You see the eagle too. That's right. America was filled with many beautiful places, with mountains and valleys and wide open spaces. President Teddy Roosevelt cherished conservation and wanted to preserve the best land for the nation. Roosevelt set aside millions of acres of land and traveled the country to see them firsthand. On one camping trip, he couldn't help but remark on the beauty of Yosemite National Park.
I see the eagle.
There's Teddy Roosevelt, and there's the eagle with Teddy. Have any of you been to a national park? Probably so. Ellis, have you been to a national park? All right. As President Woodrow Wilson decided to send U.S. soldiers to bring World War I to an end, when all sides agreed the fighting would cease, he sought to ensure a long-lasting peace. Ellis learned that Wilson advanced a greater cause, that all nations would agree to the same set of laws. In Paris, he argued for a new organization, an international body called the League of Nations. There's the eagle, and there's Ellis with President Wilson in Paris. Does anybody recognize the Eiffel Tower in Paris? Yes. It is, and our president, Woodrow Wilson, went to France, to Paris, to work on this particular body called the League of Nations. Before long, World War II suddenly began, and Franklin D. Roosevelt was just the right man. He spoke out so the American people could hear that through war and hardship, they had nothing to fear. Through fireside chats, he shared America's plight and gave people the courage to continue the fight. Month by month, Allied forces pushed on to Berlin, certain this was a struggle they'd eventually win. And here's the eagle, and here Ellis is with FDR, President Roosevelt. He was our president during World War II. And he has his dog with him. His dog was named Fala, and there's Fala and Ellis with President Roosevelt. Do you see the dog? That was a cute dog. As at long last, the Second World War was won, but America's job was not yet done. Communism threatened freedom once more, and this, Ellis learned, was called the Cold War. President Harry Truman proposed an alliance to unite the free nations in strong defiance. The NATO agreement left many impressed with the strength and resolve of the unified West. You see the eagle, and there Ellis is with President Truman. General Dwight Eisenhower, best known as Ike, was a president that most Americans liked. In World War II, he earned the people's respect and soon won their hearts as president-elect. Ike made it his mission to plan and create a nationwide network of new interstates. These wide-open roads kept America thriving, and Ellis imagined the thrill of fast driving. That's right, there's the eagle. And can you imagine not having interstates to drive on? It's because of President Eisenhower that we have this wonderful interstate system now, and we can drive our cars on it. The early 1960s were a hopeful time for a courageous leader who served in his prime. John F. Kennedy asked citizens to volunteer to improve and preserve the nation they held dear. Ellis was inspired by Kennedy's bold themes and how he challenged Americans to dream big dreams. He sent men to the moon within a few short years to discover and explore its vast new frontiers. And here is President Kennedy at his inauguration. Yes, and the eagle is there as well. Lyndon Johnson's years were anything but calm, with unrest at home and war in Vietnam. While the times made his job especially tough, President Johnson did some important stuff. With Martin Luther King, he fought discrimination to keep a founding promise of our great nation. Together, they were determined to win crucial fights that guaranteed to everyone equal civil rights. That's right, and here we have President Johnson and Martin Luther King Jr. signing the Civil Rights Act. That was quite a moment, wasn't it, Ellis? Ronald Reagan had faith in the American way, knowing that freedom, not fear, would carry the day. Ellis learned that Reagan pursued one major goal: to liberate the world from Soviet control. Reagan went to Berlin, a city split in two, with one thing he insisted the Soviets do. When he called on their leaders to tear down this wall, his words marked the start of the communist fall. And there's Ellis with President Reagan in Berlin. You see the eagle. He gets around. He's everywhere in every single illustration. And I just want to add that my illustrator, Susan Arciero, is a very talented artist, and we've worked together on this series, and she really does a nice job. Thinking back on all the presidents he observed, Ellis was so grateful for those who had served. Throughout our history, they gave what was needed and strived to ensure that our country succeeded. Each had accepted a great responsibility and done the job to the best of their ability. Ellis had tremendous respect and admiration for the presidents who'd led this exceptional nation. The end. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, because Ellis and I certainly enjoyed being with you today. And before we go, we'll come just down off the stage, and if you'd like to meet Ellis, give him a high five, have a picture. Would you like that? All right, let's do that, Ellis. Thank you so much.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.